Bibles, go ahead and get them and turn to the book of Ezra while our children are stepping out. Book of Ezra, just in case you're wondering, it is a real book. And no, you probably haven't been in it lately. It is going to be clean white pages over there in the Old Testament. Think Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job, Psalm, right in there. You're going to find it. Ezra chapter 4, and we're going to talk about setbacks. How do we handle setbacks? Obviously, this morning we've had some folks that have had some setbacks. They're not here today, and we miss them. Have you ever had a setback? You ever had something just happen to you? JT, you ever had a setback? Oh, yeah. Did you? Did you have a setback growing that beard? No, it's just on your hair, it's on the top. Okay, you've had a setback. Permanent. All right. Ezra chapter 4, we're going to talk about setbacks and talk about what do you do when you're going after what you feel God's called you to do, but you encounter different situations that literally knock your feet out from under you or want to cause you to give up. And while you're looking for Ezra, hopefully you found it there. But I want to mention one thing to you this morning. My friend Kelly Barnett, who he and his family, his wife Donna and Haley and Hayden, they're all part of the Grove, been coming here for a better part of a year now. He's a good buddy of mine. He called me we were on the phone about 7:30 this morning, and he asked me to tell you, and I said I would, pray for his family. His father is in the hospital, facing his last days. I say that very loosely, days, and he is in comfort care. And as we talked, and he was emotional, he said, would you please tell the church and have them pray for me? And I said, we absolutely will. So remember Kelly and his family and Donna and all of them as they deal with those moments in their life. And as you do that, we're going to talk about setbacks. That's a setback for his family, and we're all going to face setbacks. What do you do? What do you do when it doesn't seem like the dream's going to happen? Remember what I've said before. Remember what we talked about last week. Last week we talked about our dream series. We talked about there's a promise of a dream, there's the problem in the dream, and then there's the probability of the dream happening. And we talked about that last week. I've said it this way, and I don't think I thought this up, but I can't remember who did. So you can either give it credit to an anonymous source, or you can go ahead and give it credit to me since nobody knows who said it, and I'll just take credit. But when you look at your dream or your calling or what it is that God's called you to do or whatever you're working on, there's the birth of it, the birth of the dream. There's the belief in the dream. You believe it. Not only did God birth it in you, but now you believe this is what you were called to do. Then the next phase of that is the death of the dream. The death of the dream would be the problem and the probability, like the sermon, where it looks like it'll never happen. And the setbacks come, like we're talking about this morning. The setback comes, but if we can stand the course of time, keep moving through the setbacks, then there's the dream realized. And so this morning, I want to talk about setbacks and how we deal with them, what to look for in setbacks, and just some understanding of walking through them. Ezra chapter 4, verse 1. And the Bible says, and I'll give you an understanding of Ezra in just a moment, but the Bible says in verse 1, now when the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the people of the exile were building a temple to the Lord God of Israel, time out, just so that you know, Ezra tells the story of the people that had been in exile, God's people, the people of Judah. They had been in exile. The people of Israel had been in exile. They're coming back. King Cyrus of Persia in chapter 1 has said, I feel like God's called our people to build a temple to God in Jerusalem. He passes out the edict. All the people get fired up. Yes, we need to build a temple to God back in Jerusalem where we were exiled from. So they go back to build the temple for God. That's the dream. That's the calling. That's the motivation. That's what you have in chapter 4. These people are going to build something for God, and God's called them to do it. It says, when the enemies heard it, verse 2, they approached Zerubbabel and the heads of the fathers' households and said to them, let us build with you. Now watch, I want you to see this as part of the sermon. Let us build with you, the people in town, let us build with you, for we, like you, seek your God, and we have been sacrificing to him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, who brought us up here. But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the heads of the fathers' households of Israel said to them, you have nothing in common with us in building a house to our God, but we ourselves will together build to the Lord God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, has commanded us. Then the people of the land discouraged the people of Judah and frightened them from building and hired counselors against them to frustrate their counsel all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Now in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, they wrote an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem. What you're going to find is through the work of the enemy in setbacks, the calling of God on the lives of these men and these families was stalled for 16 years until God raised up Haggai and Zechariah to finally get the temple built. Because of setbacks, it slowed the progress that God had called them to. Ultimately, God got done what God wanted to get done. But it was in the setbacks that the dream died. I want to talk about setbacks this morning. What's going to happen when your setbacks come? How are you going to work through them? Will you recognize them? And how can we get to the dream realized? If you're a visitor this morning, we have a dream board. People have been writing their dreams up here. This is what they feel like God would call them to do or they want to do for the kingdom of God. And I can promise you this. Whether you've written it up there, it's been written on your heart, it's in your mind, or you've written it down, I'm telling you, as soon as you make the commitment to go after God with all your heart, whatever it is, the enemy's coming for you to stop you from seeing the dream realized. We're going to talk about it this morning. Let's pray. God, I love you. Thank you so much for this morning. Thank you for your word. Thank you for awesome time to be able to see Ethan baptized. I'm thankful for him. Thank you for salvation. Thank you for his obedience that has led to others being saved. And I wonder who might be watching online this morning or who might be in this facility this morning, that the obedience that you're calling them to is going to set off a chain of events like we've seen from this young man. I pray that we'd be obedient in following you in our everyday life to see the dreams realized in our life for your kingdom. And when we hit setbacks, that God, we wouldn't fall short and stop, but that we would press forward. I love you. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. Setbacks. Nobody likes them. Anybody like a setback? Nobody likes them. You like to have your progress hampered. You like to see, as you're moving along, something slow you down. Nobody likes that, right? I know you don't like it. You don't even like to go through McDonald's, order something, pull up to the window, and they'll say, would you pull right over there? We're not done with the fries yet. It irritates you, right? And we're just talking about eating lunch or dinner or whatever it might be. But now we're talking about in your life for Christ. If God has called you to somewhere, if God's working in your marriage to restore it, I was talking about this morning, if God's working to restore your marriage, or if God's working in your addiction, or if God's working on your children, or working on your spouse, if God's working at work, where you work with your employees or your employers, maybe He's working in your finances, if God's working in schooling, whatever it might be, working in church, in your Sunday school class, in your relationships, and you are absolutely giving everything that you have to see God do something great in those relationships or in those addictions or marriages or whatever it might be, one of the things that the enemy will use to stop us is a setback. You were doing well, Paul said. Who has bewitched you, is what he said. You have people that come to church all the time, they get fired up and they're going to take on hell with a water pistol, only to find a year later they're not even in church anymore. They got all gung-ho, they got fired up, they got ready to go, and then they hit a setback. They hit something that kind of discouraged them. They hit something that kind of stole their thunder. Maybe God wasn't moving at the pace that they wanted, or maybe it got too tough. Let me say something to you, and I want you to hear me this morning, and I want you to be encouraged by this, not discouraged by this, but you need to hear it from me. If you think that you're going to get your life together for Jesus Christ, commit your ways to Him, and go after the dreams that God has birthed in your heart, and it's going to be easy, you are living in fairy tale land. In fact, it's going to be the hardest decision you've ever made. In fact, I'll go right ahead and just say it to you. If you want an easy road of being a Christian, let me tell you, here's how it works. You accept Jesus Christ, you commit your way to Him, and then just go to church on Sundays. And that'll be the easiest journey you've ever had in your life. All you got to do is show up, punch a ticket, and go home. You ain't got to read your Bible, because if you come every now and then, I'll read it to you. That's the easy Christian life. We've built churches and mega churches. We've built institutions based on that very theology, and nothing ever changes. And some people get to their death day and they go, it was easy to be a believer. And I'm telling you right now, it's the hardest decision you'll ever make. Because when you get on fire for Christ and you want to follow after Him and you want your life to mean more than just living 50, 60, 80 years, whatever, and being buried somewhere so somebody can come by and shake your family's hand and tell them what a great guy you are, if you want to do something bigger than that, so that the day that you leave this earth, there's an echo, there's a ripple effect, that there's lives forever being changed. If you ever commit your ways to Christ in that way, I'm telling you right now, you've signed up for the hardest journey known to man. You're going to make enemies. You're going to have people that don't like you. You're going to have people suspect of you, cynical of you. They're not going to listen to you. And all the while, God is calling you. So we're going to talk about that this morning. We're going to talk about what happens when I get to the place, man, Phil got me all jacked up. I'm ready for my dream, man. I'm going to go do it. I wrote it on the board. I've been praying about it. I'm going. And then all of a sudden, the enemy punches you in the mouth. What do? There's folks in here this morning, you stopped doing what God called you to do because you hit a roadblock, you hit a setback. There are folks here this morning, you're in the middle of a setback and you're trying to move forward and you don't know if you've got the energy. There's some of us, you haven't even got started yet and you think that, man, this is all gravy. Believe me, when dreams start out, they're fun. They're great. We're encouraged. But I'm telling you right now, there's a setback coming and it's waiting on you. If you ever decide to get sober, live clean, setbacks are coming. It happens. Right? If you ever decide to put your marriage together, you're going to have a great time putting it together. You're going to be encouraged. People are going to be around you going, yes, you made a commitment to one another. But I'm telling you, there's going to be some nights, there's going to be setbacks. If you ever decide to really go, gear down and make it at work and go for it, and you're going to give it your all, there's going to be setbacks. So how do we deal with them? I want you to see some things on setbacks. I just want to give my whole time to setbacks, and you may be encouraged by this, even though it's a cold, flu-like Sunday. I got through my whole message last service. So I'm going to give you a whole message this morning. And if I don't make it, I've realized it's not my fault, it's your fault. All right, so here we go, because I've already done it once, all right? So how do we handle setbacks? First thing that we need to know as we're writing this down, and I want to encourage you to write it down. Even if it doesn't mean anything to you, you write it down for somebody else. But here's the first thing that you need to know. You have to know the enemy will hear of your dream and your determination. Whenever you're walking through trying to go after your dreams, doing what God called you to do, trying to work on your marriage, whatever it is, the enemy is going to hear about it. You need to see this. Ezra chapter 4 verse 1 says this, "Now when the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the people of the exile were building a temple to the Lord God of Israel." First thing you need to understand about Ezra is here's what we have. We have the exile people of Israel. King Darius, Cyrus gets fired up about building this temple for God. And so he wants to do it in Jerusalem. And so he fires up all the people of the exile and says, let's go build it. We're back, baby. Let's let everybody know in Jerusalem that God's not dead. He needs to be worshiped. And this is your calling. You're going to leave a legacy of faith that anybody that comes through this town, they're going to see a temple built there for God Almighty, the one true God. And your names are going to be down there on the bricks because that's going to be our capital campaign. We're going to take up bricks, put your whole family name down there, and forever and ever and ever, everybody's going to see your name down there. You're going to build it. And they said, yeah, that's what we're here for. And so they got fired up, and they all started traveling back. In fact, if you look in chapter 2, you're going to get the list of the names. This was such an important journey that the Bible lists the names of the people that were going to build the temple back. In fact, it was such an important journey that the Bible tells us there was over 50,000 people of Judah that were traveling there. Half the size of Neyland Stadium committed to this dream, this goal, this journey. It meant something. And this is where we begin to get off on the wrong foot. Because it's in this moment that we're fired up, that we believe it. It's in my heart. The dream has been birthed. From their standpoint, Cyrus had said it, and they said, yes, that's what we want to do. We are changed. We are set free. Isn't that what happens to a believer? You come to Christ, you've been set free from your sins, and you want to automatically do something for Him. I'm going to work in VBS. I'm going to teach Sunday school class. I'm going to tell my friends. I'm going to start a Bible study. That's what we do. I'm going to go after people that are in the same situation that I've been in. That's what we do. And immediately we get geared up and fired up. Everybody gets fired up. And in this particular case, this was for the people of exile. And they're headed back, and they're excited. But there's a problem. There's a problem, and there's a major problem, and they have no idea. And chapter 4 tells us right in the first verse, now when the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard, they heard the plans of God on their life. Listen to what I'm telling you this morning. You need to hear it. You need to go and write it down and know it. When you decide to get serious about Jesus Christ in your life, the enemy's going to hear all about it. When you decide, hey, I want to fight for my marriage, and it's worth hanging together, it's worth trying to recommit ourselves, it's worth working on our problems, it's worth talking about whatever we need, it's worth getting counseling, it's worth doing whatever we got to do. I'm telling you, they mean more to me than not being together. And I know there's been problems, I know there's this, but I'm recommitting myself to the commitment that we made 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. We are committing ourselves, and we're going to give it everything that we have, and we're going to come down here, and we're going to pray, and the pastor's going to be there, and we're going to call him, we're going to set up an appointment. Let me tell you something. Not only is God hearing the prayers of your heart so that you would recommit to see what the thing that He started out would be fruitful and flourish, but the enemy's listening too. And the enemy said, is that right, big boy? Okay. You're going to recommit. That's right, I'm recommitting. You said, Phillip, I'm not talking to the enemy. Don't worry, he's listening. You don't call him out by name. You say, well, God's for us. Who can be against us? I'll tell you who can be against you. The enemy. Now, the Bible tells us this, that he won't flourish and he won't defeat us. In fact, we got victory in Christ. But I'm telling you right now, all the way up to victory, it's a war zone. You say, well, I want to get clean. I want to start my life over. I want to try to get sober. I want to do everything. Listen to what I'm telling you. Right then, right there, as you are committing to getting your life back on track, the enemy will hear. I'm going to get started back in church. I'm going to commit myself to the Grove and what's going on there. I'm going to get started in ministry. I'm going to get started in Sunday school class. And we're all going, man, that's great. I'm glad God brought you here. You're exactly what this church needed to continue the vision. We're one body, many parts, and you're part of that body. And we're glad that you're here. Listen to who else is listening. The enemy. Well, why do you tell us that? Because when the enemy hears that you're following your dreams, when the enemy hears that one of our students raises up and says, I want to follow in believer's baptism, and God takes that and begins to affect other students in that very Sunday school class, and they come to know Christ, and we all sit in here, we clap, and we get excited, and grandparents and aunts and uncles and Sunday school teachers and friends and family, we all get excited because we heard what happened, and we were rejoicing because we heard what happened. There's somebody else listening. His name is the enemy, Satan himself, and he's not happy about what happened. Now, what's going to happen is he's got a plan, and he's got a strategy. And it's known as setbacks. So the first things you need to know, and you need to write it down. I'm going to follow my dreams. That's what you need to know. And you also need to write right underneath it, I know the enemy is listening. I know the enemy is listening. He's listening to my dream, and he's listening to my determination. Because here's what he wants to do. He wants to foil the dream, and he wants to break your determination. A lot of the reasons that we die in the area of the death of the dream is not because God isn't going to complete what he started, but it's because the enemy has led you to a valley to believe that it will never, ever happen the way that you thought, and because of that, you let the dream go. You walk away, you give up, you leave church, you leave your marriage, you do whatever, because it's in the valley, in the war zone, that the enemy had convinced you, after hearing what God was trying to do in you, that you weren't worthy enough to do and be a part of what God was calling you to do. And we have to know how he works. So we have to understand. Really, it isn't, I have made the decision to trust Christ, to start over, to be forgiven, to jump off the cliff or whatever, and now everything's going to be easy and just work out seamlessly. If you think that you're just going to do what God called you to do and you're going to jump off the cliff in faith and trust Jesus, it's going to work out seamlessly, no. It don't work that way. There's bumps and bruises. In fact, most of the time it's the exact opposite. It's going to be the hardest thing that you ever commit to because there is constant resistance. And we write it down because we don't want to be surprised by it. Most of us quit because we're surprised. The enemy heard what was going on, and then we're surprised by the attacks. We're surprised by the interruption. We're surprised when things don't go according to plan. We're surprised when we thought everybody was working together, only to find out not everybody's working together. We're surprised when I can't forget what I'm trying to forgive somebody from. We are surprised, and in the surprise of the moment, because he was listening, and he keeps assaulting me in my mind and in my heart, and through resistance and through stumbling blocks, I give up. How many would say this? This isn't testimony time, but I would just challenge you. How many would you say, I gave up because it got too hard? I gave up because I just couldn't go on. I gave up because I didn't think it would happen. I gave up. That's what the enemy is working towards. So it's not a surprise. And when it comes upon you, do not let it discourage you. Take a hold of it. Know in that moment you are right where you're supposed to be, and fight on. I want to challenge you this morning. Fight on. It's not going your way. Fight on. We're going to keep moving because the enemy's been listening. He wants to disrupt what our dreams are. So we got to know, number one, the enemy's listening, and he wants to disrupt my dreams and determination. And so he does this by a series of setbacks. The first setback that you need to know of, or the second point, is this: the setback of subtle compromise. A setback of subtle compromise. You ever compromised? Did you know that one of the greatest tactics of the enemy is to cause you to compromise and you not even know it? You ever compromised and you didn't even know it? Some of y'all have compromised just to stop a war. right? If you've ever tried to take your kids out to eat for lunch in the car and made this mistake, hey, where y'all want to go? That's a mistake. Because the moment you say, hey, where y'all want to go, you're going to get 15 different responses. I want McDonald's. I hate McDonald's. I want Arby's. I hate Arby's. Right? And it's on those days that you end up at Long John Silver's because nobody likes it and everybody's going to have a piece of fish. Right? They're just going to make them do it. Right? Compromise. Did you know that the enemy, I want you to hear that if you're not listening to me this morning, you need to write this down. One of the greatest tactics of the enemy, one of the less noticeable ones, one of the ones that you will not be ready for, and I'm about to give you some points here in just a minute. It's going to get real quick. Here's what's going to happen, is that if the enemy can't stop you with blunt resistance, if he can't destroy you with blunt resistance, just roadblock after roadblock, here's what he'll do, is he'll join what you're doing to slow you down with compromise. Well, I've never heard of that. Well, it's true. That some of us, you're far off from where you started. And you're far off from where you started, not because you gave up in the blunt resistance, but because along the way you joined forces with the enemy, didn't know it, and he pulled you aside. The tactic that he had was to cause you to stop, slow down, and to compromise the very passion that you had when you began the journey. That the way you felt about it once, you've given it away, and now the dream that God gave you is not yours anymore. You've given it away to somebody else, and it's not fulfilling what God called you to do because you've compromised along the way. Let me show you how this works. Watch what happens. The Bible says in chapter 2, now the enemy heard. So what's the first tactic in living out the dream? How does the enemy attack it? Number 2, the setback of subtle compromise. They approached Zerubbabel and the heads of fathers' households and said to them, now watch, here's the people of the town. They come into Jerusalem. He got 50,000 of them. They're out of exile. They know what they're going to do. They got the blueprints. They got the stuff. They've already committed their gold, their silver, their time. They've got the dream. It's in them. Now they're already walking to do what God's called them to do. Remember, they had the birth of the dream, and they're about to, they think in their mind, see the dream realized. They're going to have to work in the middle, but they're going to see the dream realized, right? Because somewhere the dream was born, the edict came down, they said, yes, let's build it, and then they believed that they were the ones that needed to do it. So the Bible tells us that they gave their gold, their silver, their time, their money, everything. They grouped up as 50,000, and they went, and now they're about to take hand to plow, build the temple, because that's what they were called to do. That's all they want to do. They want to leave a legacy of faith, but what they didn't plan on was this little bitty setback that's coming right in here in the middle where the dreams die, and the tactic that the enemy uses, and here's what he does after he's heard it. He says the people of the town to the people of God, and the people of the town say this, let us build with you, for we, like you, seek your God, and we have been sacrificing to him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, who brought us up from here. Look what they did. They saw that they were going to build. The enemies knew they were going to build. The enemy didn't jump out and say, you're not building here. They had all their paperwork. They knew that they were forced to be reckoned with. There's 50,000 of them. And so here they show up. And so the enemy doesn't say, you know what, we're not going to stop them from building. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to build with you. We want to join your team. What a great idea. In fact, did you all know that we serve the same God that you serve? We've been seeking him ourselves. We've been sacrificing to him. So we would love to join your efforts in rebuilding the temple. Now, time out. Most of us that are ever going after our dream, anytime that someone comes alongside of us and they push their way into our lives and they say, I want to help you achieve your dream, most of us would say, great, awesome, great. And we're going to talk about these people in just a minute. But they come alongside of you. They can be in your family. They can be outside your family. They can be at work. They can be in church. They can be nowhere. I don't know. But they come alongside of you. I want to put my marriage back together. All of a sudden, people come in. They want to help you get your marriage fixed. I need to work on my attitude. All of a sudden, people come in. Some of those people are really good for you. But can I tell you, one of the tactics of the enemy is to surround you with people that you have no business listening to. Y'all with me? It's about to get weird. Hang with me. It's about to get deep. About to get deep, because some of us right now, it isn't a matter of whether God called you to it. It's a matter of who you've allowed yourself to be influenced by and surrounded by. And not only did God call you to it, but because of the tactic of the enemy, you're not doing what God called you to because you've slowly compromised what God called you to and give it away to somebody else that it was never intended for. So these people come up and they go, we're going to help you build. And by the way, Normally when the enemy sends people to you, they don't walk up to you and go, hey, we're going to help you build. We're building a Satan-worshiping facility over here, but we were just taking a break and thought we'd help you out. Cool, rock on. That's not what happens, right? Here's what Satan does. He takes people that have just enough biblical knowledge or just enough spiritual condition and walks them right into our lives, and we bite hook, line, and sinker, and they get our eyes off the prize of Jesus Christ. Stung a little, didn't it? But it's true. Well, you know, such and such said, well, such and such, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't. Well, you know, they go to church every Sunday. Yeah, so what? Our cars are always out in the parking lot too, but ain't none of them saved. I mean, come on. What are you talking about? I've preached at these chairs more than I preached to any individual in here. Not one of them's going to heaven. You understand what I'm saying? You can wrap Jesus around anything, but that doesn't mean that it's saved and that it's speaking from the Holy Spirit understanding. And we got to be careful about it. And here's what these guys did. Listen to me. I'm going to give you some understanding in just a minute because you're going, how do I know if I've partnered with the wrong people? I'm about to show you. But listen to what they said. Now watch. Now watch. So they come across, they said, we want to build with you, and we want, because we've been seeking God, and we've been sacrificing too. Boy, we've been laboring in this forever. You know, we've always looked at this lot, and we thought a good temple should go there, and we've just been, we've been doing everything that we can. We're so glad you're here. They're just trying to get on board. They've been seeking God. They've been doing all those things, so we're just going to join you. And most of us, if we're being honest, we just said, we're like the graveyard. We'll take any help we can get. But here's what happens. Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the heads of the fathers of the household of Israel said to them, watch this, you have nothing in common with us in building a house to our God, but we ourselves will together build to the Lord God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, has commanded us. They just show back up into town and in a sense are rude to the people that are trying to welcome them, and they absolutely push back on the help that they're trying to give them. Why? Because they had healthy boundaries in their relationship, and they understood that their relationship with Jesus Christ was more important than their relationship with the world. Their relationship with doing what God had called them to do was more important than whether I offend or hurt your feelings. I'm on a mission. I got to do what I got to do for Jesus Christ. And although you would like to get on board with this is not your calling. And I appreciate the kind words, but you need to go build your thing because God's called me to build this thing. And if I give this thing to you, then nobody will ever see what was supposed to be built for God Almighty Himself. We got to have healthy boundaries. We got to be able to draw a line in the sand. Now, I probably wouldn't have said it like that because they just come right out the gate and just looked them dead in the eye and said, you have nothing in common with us. I probably would have said it more like this. I appreciate the offer. Appreciate it, man. It's good. We got 50,000 of them down here. You guys, thank you for the warm welcome going about it. But God's people knew that you had to have a healthy boundary because if they didn't, the moment that they invited these people to be a part of what they were doing and get in their ear and begin to talk to them and begin to build alongside of them, they would slowly compromise the God-called mission on their life. By the way, just in case you're wondering who are these people, you can look it up in 2 Kings chapter 17. They said that they were seeking God. But in fact, what they were doing is they were worshiping all kinds of people. They were worshiping all kinds of gods. They had pagan gods. In fact, God had sent in and driven them out from time to time because they were not godly people. And in fact, think Mars Hill. These people were seeking all these other gods, and they had thrown the one true God involved in there as well. What you have to understand is when people begin to speak this way into your life without the boundaries, and we buy it hook, line, and sinker, here's what you'll know. They'll take a little bit of truth and mix it with a whole lot of false, and they will mess you up. These people ultimately are the forefathers. You know who they are? In the New Testament, these people are the forefathers to the New Testament Samaritans. Can you imagine if God's people had gotten involved with the Samaritans and the pagans of that day during this day? They would have never hit their mission. So what happens? Here's what happens. Many times one of the simplest and less noticeable tactics of the enemy is when he hears of our determination for change or dream is to join in on what we are doing to undermine the goal. One of the tactics of the enemy is to join in on what we're doing to undermine it so that it never takes place. These people can slide into what you're doing. This is good. In case you want to tweet me later. These people slide into what you are doing with half-truths and impure motivation. And if the enemy can't stop you with blunt resistance, he will do it with cooperative sabotage. The very people that you think are in it for you and to help you are the very people that the enemy will use to tear down the dream that God gave you. So what do these people look like? Well, I looked some things up because I want you to be able to understand. Because if you're like me, I hear something like that and I read Ezra and I go, oh man, who do I trust? Who do I not trust? Who, because how do I do this? How do I work the dream that God's given me and not give it away? How do I have a healthy boundary and say, no, I'm good. You go do your thing. I'm good. I'm going to do it over here, but we don't need a partner on this, or we don't, I don't need you speaking into my life. So you go do your thing. Just pray for me. How do I have those healthy boundaries? Kerry Newwolf out of Canada is a great leadership pastor, great pastor, and I listen to him a lot and get a lot of insight from him. Gives some red flags that you need to know, and I hope you're taking notes, of people that come into your life or are in your life that actually turn out to be people who absolutely sabotage and undermine the goals of God in your life. You want to know what they look like? You ready? First red flag is this: when you're looking and being aware, creating healthy boundaries. Not to become cynical or hateful or mean, but you need to perceive and you need to understand and ask God for discernment, because God's given me a precious gift. God's given me a workmanship. He's created me as His workmanship, given me good things to walk in that He prepared beforehand. Who am I to give it away? I don't want to give it away to somebody. I don't want somebody to talk me out of it. So what kind of red flags do I need to look at when I'm beginning to work in an understanding of other folks when people come on? Number one is oftentimes these people come on real strong. People who end up being the most toxic at the end of a relationship are over the top positive when they first meet you or hear of your dream. You seen this? They hear something, they know of something, and all of a sudden they're your biggest fan. Oh, I've always been dreaming of that. That's a great idea. We need to do that. I want to help you. How can I help you? Oh. And they just over the top positive. Over the top positive. Mandy and I were talking about this one day. It's funny that sometimes, or we've seen in my own life, that some of the biggest fans I've ever had in ministry that talked to me, that wanted to posture me for positions or call me as a pastor, have absolutely nothing to do with me anymore. They were my biggest fan. We're for you, buddy. Send you notes. I'm just talking about me because I can't talk about you. Maybe it happens to you in your own life. They're your biggest supporters until the day comes where the dream that God's given you separates from their impure motives. The moment that they can't get anything out of you anymore, their friendship changes. You got to remember something. You need to write this down. You guys know what I'm talking about. Y'all have dealt with it too. You got people in your life that came on strong. You don't even know where they came. Where did this person come from? Like, where did you come from? Like, I don't even know where you came from. Like, all of a sudden, you're all up in my grill. Right? Like, you're just here. I'm just so glad that God brought our roads together. He really wrote a great hymn of Rascal Flats of God Bless the Broken Road, and I'm so glad we're here. It's like, what are you talking about? And they come on strong, man, because they've heard the dream, they've heard the thing, they've heard what's going on. It resonated with them, and if he can't beat you, he'll join you, and all of a sudden this person comes out of nowhere, and here they are. Write this down. This is good leadership stuff. Even if you walk out and go, I didn't get nothing out of this message, you need to write this down. This is a good one. Toxic people that come into your life, they will leave just as loudly as they came in. They will leave just as loudly as they came in. They were all over you, excited for you, right? And when they went out kicking and screaming, throwing rocks and stones. You need to remember that. So when I'm looking at this and I'm saying, I got to have healthy boundaries, I need to be able to look for these red flags in my relationships because this is precious. I got to be able to say, you know what, this isn't our thing. We don't have anything in common in this. You go do your thing, I'll do my thing. I think we're going to be better, served this way. Number two is this: they give you advice in your first meeting them. You just come in contact with them, and all of a sudden, it's just like you've walked into an Encyclopedia Britannica or Google itself, right? You've ran right into Mr. or Miss Wikipedia. They know everything about your dream. They know everything about where you came from. They know everything about where you're going. They know everything about every landmine that you're going to step in. They know every wheel to grease. They know everything. Right as soon as they come into your first meeting you, they begin to give you advice right off the bat. And on the front end, we're saying, I didn't ask you. But they're just giving it to you. They know it all. They have an answer for everything. They're just spilling it on you. And I'm not talking about small encouragement. Right? We're not talking about that. Encouragement's good. There's going to be people that in your life, they're going to give you small pieces of advice. Right? I don't think I'd be a toxic person if you said, hey, I'm going to walk out there in that driveway and go get my car and drive home. And then if I just, because I knew, and I said, hey, don't go out that door. There's a big pothole out there. You need to go out this door and step around it. If you go out that way, you're going to fall in it. Just go this way. Nobody would say that's a toxic person, right? You'd say, thank you for the advice and move on. But a toxic person comes in and goes, you don't need to be walking out that door. I don't know why you're walking out that door. In fact, don't walk on this carpet. You know, I walked on this carpet one time in 1976. We were on this carpet, and there was a big pothole. And all of a sudden, here it is. And you're the dumbest person in the room, and you need them. All of a sudden, they start chipping away. They've come on strong. They've got all the advice, and they're chipping away at you so that you become dependent upon them. They're unhealthy in what they do. They want to make themselves the center of knowledge for you. You've become dependent upon. Healthy people never give you loads of advice the first time they meet you. Unhealthy people do. You're going to find that. If you'll write that down, just trust my words. Healthy people don't do that. Healthy people are confident and humble enough to be able to sit and listen and never barrage you with advice until asked for. Which brings to the third one. They tell rather than waiting to be asked. It's natural to have an opinion. Toxic people volunteer themselves instead, or volunteer their opinions instead of waiting to be asked. Right? You ever just been talking about something and all of a sudden somebody's just going to tell you, here's my opinion on it? And you're like, I didn't ask you your opinion. Toxic people do this. Now, I'm not talking about if you're in a friendship and relationship. I've got friends in here, and you've got friends in here. We know certain people, they would share something with me, and I would have an opinion on it, and I would not hide it. I wouldn't wait till they asked me because our relationship's that deep. I would just share my opinion. But it's not a toxic relationship because we got years and years of experience here together, and we're just going back and forth. But in most situations, whenever God's working in your life and He's bringing you in place, if you're starting a new ministry, or you're starting a new business, or you're trying to put your marriage together, or you're trying to love your husband through infidelity, or you're trying to love your wife through infidelity, or you're trying to get your finances in order, and you're trying to become a biblical tither, you're trying to do all this stuff, and all of a sudden you got somebody in your ear who's influencing you and saying, let me tell you what I think. I think it's silly to be down there tithing. Why would you tithe down there? You know, there's a lot of good organizations that are nonprofits you could give to them instead. If you got anything extra, just go ahead and do it. That's a bad piece of advice. Guess what happened? The enemy just stole you. Right? Or, you know what, I know you're committed and you're going down there and believing all that Jesus stuff and you're going to try to love her through this, but I'm just telling you, once a cheater, always a cheater. You might as well just go ahead and start over now. Boy, that sounds like some good advice, doesn't it? It's good. It's real good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Where is that in Psalms? Just trying to figure it out here. Right? They come on strong. They don't wait. They give you tons of advice. They don't wait to be asked. They just unload on you. Number 4 is this. They want to be the center of attention. These toxic people, they hijack conversations. They're loud. They never ask questions. Sometimes in church we would say it like this. They get involved way too soon. It's all about them. It's all about their track record. It's all about their accomplishments. They demand your attention. These people are demanding your attention because they're trying to create, these folks here are trying to create an understanding. They come on the scene. They go, listen, you're going to need to buy a block and brick. We know the guy down there that makes it. You really need to partner with us. We can kind of help make that happen for you. And in fact, I wouldn't start that building here. You know, the last guys before it was, before y'all got out of exile and everything, it was over here and it got destroyed. But if you would move that building right over here just a little bit, I think it would be better. And, I don't know what contract y'all think about you. I wouldn't use him. We got a guy in town that you really need to use, and he's going to be great. And don't you worry about it because we're going to take care of everything. Got a good lawyer. He'll draw up all the stuff. You're going to be good. Next thing you know, because you think that you can get further down the road with somebody that has all the answers, they take the dream that God put in your heart away from you. It can happen with your brothers, your sisters, your moms, your dads, your friends. It can happen in the hallways. It can happen outside. It can happen at work. We begin to surround ourselves, and the enemy has seen that you're not going to bow to just blunt resistance. You hit a wall, and you keep pushing through it. You hit a problem, and you're trying to get around it. You see something that's a setback that's kind of physical, but you push all the way through it. So you know what the enemy does? He backs up, changes tactics, and says, if I can't stop them with a door, and if I can't stop them with a mountain, and if I can't stop them with a problem, and I can't stop them with a pit because they're going to push through, here's what I'll do. I'll stop them by joining their team. They'll never second guess it. They'll never see it coming. Because the enemy knows that most of our friends, family, employees, employers, the people that we surround ourselves, they speak louder into our lives than King Jesus does anyway, so all he has to do is fan the flame, and we will be off and running in the wrong direction in no time. That's a good word. Thank you. I like having Buffy here. Here's one. You hear from them far too often early. You ever been around those folks? They come on, they get your phone number, they get your text message, they get your email. They just own you. They try to suffocate you, trying to create this environment where you need them. You need me. You need me. You need what I'm selling. You need my help. You need this. They're trying to create a dependency upon you. And here's something else that we found. They have a track record. This is something that we found in churches, so this may not be applicable to your life, but maybe it might be. But notice when churches kind of pick up these people, they show up out of nowhere. They want to jump right in. They've got all this history. They did this at this church, did this at this church. It was great. But you need to understand something about toxic people. Toxic people have a track record of moving around. For you, it might not be joining the church. It might be friendships. And they were friends with this people, and they were friends with these people, and they were friends with these people. And now it's your turn to be friends with them, but they've left all these people in the wake of destruction. Here's an understanding. Kerry says it this way. He says, if someone left 5 churches in the last 5 years, they're probably leaving yours too. And so you need to understand something too, is if that person that you're listening to has joined forces with you, has wrecked other relationships before they got to you, they're probably going to wreck the one with you too. You need to understand it. You need to get it. See, here's what happens is the enemy gets inside of our team. He gets on our strategy. He gets where we are. We've surrounded ourselves with people. It happens all the time. And now all of a sudden the enemy's got some random person that speaks a little bit of Jesus that would say, oh, I've been sacrificing too. Speaks this language. I've been doing this. I just want to help you get there. I just want to do all this stuff. And all of a sudden they take you out of church. They get you in some kind of guys like a small group or a Bible study. You start going to this Bible study. You start getting in this small group. And next thing you know, instead of encouraging you in church and to be a part of ministry, it sucks you out of church and out of ministry, and the enemy has beat you at your own game. You weren't ready. He jumped on board with where you were going and beat you to the target, and he took you down along the way. And these people said, hey, appreciate the help, but we don't need it. One of the most spiritual things that you can do sometimes in your life is draw a healthy boundary and say, I love you, I care for you, but we're not going together on this. You need to do your thing, I'm going to do my thing. If you ever need me, I'll be here. But this is a healthy spiritual boundary. This is God's calling on my life and not yours. God called you to go. Why in the world would you let somebody that wasn't called to go talk you out of going? You know why they're not going? Because God knew He could never talk them into going. That's why He called you. Why did God raise you up to get involved in a messy, messy ministry? I'm just telling you right now, some of the ministries I'm involved in, they're messy, messy, messy. You've got to be absolutely stubborn, hard-headed, and willing to stand in the middle of a mess to see it done. You know why God asked me to be a part of it and to partner with other people like that? It's because He couldn't talk some other people into it because they're too soft. So now I'm going to have soft people talking me out of something that it took a hard-headed person to get involved with. Are y'all with me? So all of a sudden, you got your friend, you got your kids, you're trying to help them in addiction, you're trying to help them to get their life straight, and you're determined. God stirred it up in your heart, you're pouring your heart and soul in it, and you got these friends, you got these folks on the perimeters, you got these people that you hang out with, you go to dinner with, and they're going, I don't know why you try so hard. You know, they don't love you. You know, they stole from that guy. You know, they did all this stuff. And you know what they do? They beat you down, beat you down, beat you down, so that the very one that God raised up to reach the one that's in the pit now left the pit because all the bystanders talked them out of being in the pit where they needed to be. God, it's a good word. I'm going to amen myself. See, we begin to fill this board with dreams. We begin to think about it. We begin to believe it. We begin to understand it. I begin to see it. And all of a sudden the problems come. And the enemy begins to surround me with people that I would never suspect and I would never think because they say Jesus' name and they got the WWJD bracelet on and they've been a part of 37 churches in the past 10 years and they're all around me. And all of a sudden, if he can't get to me by putting a stumbling block down, he'll get to me by speaking in my very ears by the people I trust the most. You got to stay focused. What's the next step? Setback. Y'all ready? The second setback, which is number 3 on your points. Remember, here, the enemy's going to hear. Then he's going to try to take over. Number 3 is the setback of discouragement. If he can't get people in your life to talk you out of it or slowly get you to compromise, I thought you were going to do something. Well, I was, but you know, I mean, there's just a lot of people that's doing that. And I just decided you know what, I'm going to do this. Compromise. I thought, yeah, I was. You know, I talked to a couple guys, and we decided, see, if he can't change you and get you to compromise there, then what he'll do is he'll discourage you. The Bible says in verse 4, right after they offered to help, and they were told in no certain terms, take a hike, then the people come back, and it says the people of the land discouraged the people of Judah. The second setback that you're going to see, number 3 point on your paper, is this, that when the enemy wants to set up a setback, one of the greatest ones after he tries to get you to compromise is the setback of discouragement. The spirit of discouragement will cause you to give up. You begin to believe what you are doing is in vain. You'd have extra time somewhere else. You'd be served doing something else. Here's what the enemy begins to do. He begins to discourage you. He begins to make you feel bad. He begins to make you think that nobody believes this but you. He begins to think that there's probably somebody else out there better at it than you. He begins to make you think that, well, if I didn't tithe or give to here, then I would have more money for my family here and it wouldn't be so hard. He begins to make you think that if you didn't give your time and effort in this ministry, then you could make that time and effort towards your family. And that's pretty spiritual too, because he's called you to be a family man before he ever calls you to be a church man. So he's going to discourage you that way. He's going to begin to discourage you and make you feel like you're ignorant or you don't understand it or it's too big. You can't get it. The enemy wants to discourage you because in discouragement, he can push you into a corner. Discouragement leads to isolation. No one ever quit a basketball team, baseball team, cheerleading squad, chess club, whatever it might be. No one ever quit that team because they were encouraged with their progress. I'm quitting, Coach. What for? I've been making too many threes. I got to slow this train down, man. I just thought, man, you know, you just start me way too often. I'm going to play basketball today at 4:30 at Rockwood. I bench myself. They let me start the first game because I'm the pastor, you know. Next time we showed up, and it was kind of awkward because they were like, who else is going to start? And I was like, let me just go ahead and settle this for you. I'm not starting. Oh, you're not? You know, like, well, you can. I was like, no. I'll be right over here. Y'all get a good run in. About 2 minutes left in the first half, I'll come in, all right? Finish strong. You know why? I'm extremely discouraged with basketball as a 40-year-old man. Because I'm playing 21-year-olds. I'm playing punks. I'm playing guys that are actually trying to dunk it. I'm playing with guys that don't even stretch. They can eat a Big Mac between quarters, and they're good. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to eat at lunch today because I know I'm playing at 4:30. And I know if I eat too much of that, I'm going to die on the court. So you know what I do? I bench myself in discouragement. I just sit over there. And they're like, you want to come in? I'm like, no, I'm good. You know what discouragement also makes me do? It makes me play reckless. I'm mean on the court. I don't know where I always come from. This little punk kid down there last week, he's like talking all this stuff, and I thought, all right. I threw him down on the ground. I did, on the ground. You check the videotape. He's like going to juke me and do all this other kind of stuff. And my legs don't work as quick as they used to. My mind does. My mind goes, go. And my leg says, not today. And I go, come on. And so then what happens is this foot won't go. Like, you know, you normally, you got to be moving your feet. You know, move your feet, keep your hand, move your feet, move. And I'm going, my feet don't move, man. They actually brought me a new pair of shoes to this gym. They said, these shoes are a little lighter. You might be able to move quicker. They actually told me that. I'm wearing somebody else's shoes. I'm standing there. This kid tries to juke me, and my mind triggers all those neurons and whatever else is in there, and it said right foot step, and right foot said, huh! And my leg reached, and my leg's here, and my arm, and so it looks like that old man move, like, you know, and I'm here, and this kid's stepping around me, and he got side goggled, and I went for the ball just to kind of save face, but when I went for the ball, his hand was on top of the ball, and so when I touched his hand, immediately my mind said, get him! And so I grabbed his wrist. It's on the outside of his body. I grabbed this wrist, and I just yanked it with all my might. I didn't even try to get the ball. I just yanked it, and he flipped and landed on his back. And they thought he had thrown himself down. And then the ball was loose, and the next words I hear was, get the ball, get the ball. And so he's down, he's like, oh, and he's like, ref. And he didn't call no foul because he felt bad for me. He knew my leg wouldn't work. And so I went And I couldn't even get the loose ball because the leg said, we've done enough. Just stay here. It's safe. Get the ball, pass it down the court. We scored. What'd you do after that? Did you celebrate? Nope. I immediately took myself out of the game because I was tired again. And I went over and I sat down. That's what discouragement does to you. See, some of us are discouraged and you've taken yourself out of the game. You have. In fact, you're discouraged and you're playing reckless. You're playing reckless because you don't feel like everybody is where you are, or you don't feel like where you are where you should be. And discouragement puts you in a hole and it makes you play reckless. When you get discouraged, the purity of your motives changes. The reason that you do what you do changes. I'm discouraged, so now I'm going to take shortcuts. I'm discouraged, so now I don't care if I have to step over you or do this to you to get to where I need to get to. See, the enemy, sometimes we think discouragement's just going to push us in a corner and we'll stay there. No. Discouragement changes you. You know, encouragement makes you think that you could take on the world. Discouragement causes you to look at how you can do what you need to do and get away with it with ever having to do it the way God wanted you to do it. See, if you were encouraged because you could see the effects of what you were doing, you'd never change what you're doing. But because the enemy has discouraged you and you can't see the effects of what you're doing, you're about to change the godly ways that you were doing what you were doing to begin with because you're trying to hurry up the effects of what God's trying to do. And here's what he's saying. Don't be discouraged, be encouraged, because if you'll hang with it, it's about to get better. So you try to put your marriage back together and you get discouraged, right? So you're trying to forgive him of all the things he did in that marriage. And you made a commitment and you got fired up and it's a dream of yours. You're going to see God heal your marriage. But he came in one day and he said something and it just reminded you of a whole bunch of stuff. And you got it discouraged. So now you got discouraged because you don't know that you'll ever be able to get past it. You won't ever be able to forget. You won't ever be able to do this. So now you're discouraged. You're wanting to love him. You're staying committed. But now you're discouraged. And you know what happens to you? Now you're ill. Now you're hateful, and those words that you were trying to use to begin with to be just softened with a little sweetness and kindness have completely gone away. And now I'm discouraged. Aren't we working on our marriage? Yeah, but if you hadn't done what you've done, we wouldn't be in this situation in the first place. See how that goes? That's discouragement. But I thought I thought you were going to try. I am trying. Don't you know how hard this is on me? So you're not seeing the effect of what you want to see soon enough. So now I'm discouraged, and now it's changed me. So the enemy wants to get on board where you are, steal your dream from you. Number two is discourage you. Third is this. It goes hand in hand with discouragement. Right after discouragement comes fear. If he can't discourage you enough, and oftentimes when he does, he'll scare you to death. So the Bible says, then the people of the land discouraged the people of Judah. And then it says, and frightened them from building. You know what happened? They showed up. There's 50,000 I'm building this thing. They were discouraged. They're down. It's not happening the way they wanted. Maybe we should have taken a deal and worked with them. Now we can't get enough wood and stone. They've shut us down. I mean, they're making it hard, and now it's just difficult. And now all of a sudden the people said, you know what? If y'all don't hurry up or get out of the way, we're going to kill you. They frightened them. Now everybody on the building committee goes back to the forefathers of the household, and they say, listen, they're threatening to kill us down there, and I can't be a part of this. And what they should have said was, you know, there's 50,000 of us. Unless they have 50,000 swords, I think we're okay. But they didn't. What they did was they got scared and they backed down. Did you realize that because of the setbacks of getting on board, and they were able to move that, and then discouragement, and then ultimately fear, they will stop building this temple, and it isn't until God raised up Haggai and Zechariah 16 years later. It took 16 years to finish what God started and could have been done within a year. Fear will mess with your decision making. Fear will cause you to make flip-flop decisions. You ever met somebody who's making a flip-flop decision? One day it's this, one day it's that. Are you going to let me back in the house? Yes. The next day, I think it's a bad idea. Get out. I didn't mean that to be funny. Sorry. Right? Are you going to forgive me? Yes. The next day, I don't think I can. I need to get help and go to rehab. The next day, I just can't do this. Flip-flop. It's fear. See, when you're dealing with a flip-flop decision maker, if I'm dealing with a flip-flop decision maker, even though I may not say it out loud, here's what I know. Whether they're working with me on a committee or they're working with me in my office on different things, if they're flip-floppy, here's what I know. You're scared to death, aren't you? That's not what we say. I'm scared of making the wrong one. So one day I'm going to do this, and the next day I'm going to do this. I'm afraid to let them back. I'm afraid not to kick them out. I'm afraid to go to rehab. I'm afraid not to go. I'm afraid to join a church. I'm afraid not to join a church. See, here's the thing. It's not that you can't make a good, wise decision. It's the fact that you're scared to death of what the outcome of that decision may be because you're discouraged. Second one is it'll change your decision short-sighted. You'll make a short-sighted decision that does not have a long-term success. See, you get scared. You know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all get on diets. You get hungry, and you get scared. You get scared you'll never eat again. You get scared you'll die on the interstate doing 65 on a diet and hadn't eaten in 3 days. You get scared you might get caught out in the wilderness. Need some food in your belly. So you go buy crystals. And the hot and ready sign's on. You buy a whole sack full. It's a short-term decision. Right? Well, it's not thought out well. But man, they're good, aren't they? Get a little cheese. Would you like cheese on it? Is there any other way, ma'am? Yes. Load them down. You want fries? Are you kidding? Yes. They're soggy. I know, and I don't care. And your Coke tastes like wax. But that's beside the point. They're the best burgers on the planet. See, when you're scared, you make short-sighted decisions. That's why you have no long-term success. When you're not scared, you make long-term decisions. I can make a decision right now, and it may not pay out the way I want it to, but long-term, it's better. And then here's the last thing. Come on up here, JT. When you're scared, you have the problem, either a flip-flop decision, short-sighted decision, or indecision. As it's been said before, to choose not to choose is to choose. And fear will cause you to not choose. I'm not going to do anything. Sometimes you talk to somebody and you know they're scared to death, whatever situation they're going through. What are we going to do? I don't know yet. I don't know. I need some time to think. Have you ever noticed that when sometimes people need time to think, there never comes a good time to answer it? I just need some time to think. Why are they telling you that? Why can they not get on board? Why will they not make a decision? It's not necessarily what you've asked them to do. It's the fact that they're scared. They're scared. Afraid of commitment, afraid of doing it. The enemy wants to do that. He'll scare you. We need to build this. I know we do. Isn't that what the king said? Yes. Didn't you all feel it in your heart? Yes. Well, then we need to get back to work. I can't. We're not doing anything. Just stop, put the trowels down. We're not doing another thing. Why aren't we doing this? Because we need to see how this thing plays out before we do anything. Why? Because you're scared. They're scared. They're scared they're going to die. Here's the last thing, last setback of the enemy. When he can't get on board with you and talk you out of it, when he can't discourage you enough to change you, when he can't cause you to be fearful enough to not choose, here's the third and last thing that he'll do to your fourth thing, whatever it is, number next. Here's what he'll do. It's the setback of misinformation and false accusations to undermine the goal of what you've been called to do. You ever wondered why you set your heart on doing what God's called you to do and all of a sudden people hear stuff that isn't true? Maybe you're accused of something. Maybe they said you said this. Maybe they said you did something good. No. Do not go down there. You unplug it. We good? Yeah. Come to the grove. We will set you on fire. Yeah. We good? Fear. Yeah, I'm scared. Don't do nothing. Don't move. Well, there we go. There's no good way to wrap this up at this point. Here's what I'll say to you, and we'll finish up this morning. Here's what I'll say to you, and we'll continue next week on. And I'm gonna back up. We're gonna continue next week. Is when you go after what God's called you to do, the enemy's going to try to create setbacks. He's going to try to slow you down. And when all else fails, he'll create misinformation and accusations. People will question your motives, why you're doing what you're doing, where you came from, where you're going. In fact, what they'll do too is they'll take a little bit of truth and mix it with a whole lot of a lie just to mess it up. They will work against you as opposed to for you. And you have to know that. And you have to understand accusations and misinformation most of the time is not something that you can fix. So, Philip, I'm going after my dream. I'm trying to do what God's called me to do. How do I stay in the game and not give up when they're saying stuff that isn't true and they're accusing me and they're doing... How do I stay in the game? 3 things that you do. You got to stay focused. Stay focused to stay pure in what God's called you to do. Right? And then, after it's all done, rise above it and go after it. Don't get caught up in all the peripheral stuff. Don't worry about things that you can't control, but turn your focus over to the one that controls it all. Don't worry about working all these things out. You've got to be willing to say yes, and don't be discouraged. Get up. Because if God's called you to it, He'll get you through it. And He'll get you to where you need to be. I want you to bow your heads, close your eyes. We have time of invitation. Maybe this morning you just need to come up here and take out this pen and just write your dream up here. Maybe this morning you need to come back up here and re-engage. Maybe you would say something like this. You'd say, man, I started off good, but I've just kind of gotten off track. Maybe you'd say, you know what, Philip, as an eye-opener, I've got people in my life right now, and they're absolutely causing me to compromise what you've called me to do. Philip, I've got big dreams and goals for what Christ has called me to, but man, that's what a shock to understand that the enemy's hearing me. And he's hearing the dreams that God's put in my life. I want to get on my face and just pray that God will protect the dream that He's given me. Maybe you come and you say, Philip, I'm discouraged, man. I'm just discouraged. Don't ever quit. Write it down. Don't ever quit when you're discouraged. Don't ever quit when you're discouraged. You'll always regret quitting when you're discouraged. Or maybe you're scared to death to do what God's called you to do. Whatever it might be, here's what I want you to know, is that God has called you to something greater than yourself. Maybe it's fixing a relationship. Maybe it's causing you to be a biblical tither. Maybe it's causing you to start a ministry, start a new job, go on mission, whatever it is. And if He's called you to it, He'll get you through it. Let's pray. God, I love you. I pray that you would move so greatly this morning, do great things in our life. Help us. Help us to be encouraged and motivated to go where You've called us to go. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's stand and let's sing.